They say that everyone can succeed in this country if they work hard enough, right? There's just one problem. It's not true. Research suggests that you are now more likely to inherit wealth or poverty from your parents than their height or their weight, and it's getting worse. Yet, Americans still believe they live in a land where everyone is equally rewarded based upon their skill and their intelligence. Why is there this disconnect between what America wants to be and what it actually is? Why does inequality exist and compound in the land of the free? In this series, we're going to explore the barriers people face in their pursuit of the American dream, and we'll meet people along the way working to overcome them. I'm your host, Nico, and this is The Opportunity Gap. Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, Nico?
Doing very well. Thank you so much for making the time for us to stop by.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a Head Start program not far from a neighborhood where I grew up.
Independence has several early childhood programs just because we do know how valuable it is. You know, we really work on academic skills, you know, the counting and the literacy, writing, reading. But on top of that, we really try to focus on that social emotional piece and learning how to be a learner.
Head Start began in the 60s as a part of Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty.
Our aim is not only to relieve the symptom of poverty, but to cure it, and above all, to prevent it.
Lyndon's vision was to create a series of anti-poverty programs, especially targeting those focused on education and early childhood education. Johnson was building upon an idea from almost a century earlier. This idea that education should be our nation's great equalizer. That term was coined by politician Horace Mann and has continually repeated itself in our public policy ever since. Horace believed that education would be the balance wheel of our social machinery. So when this war on poverty began, lawmakers who were looking to close the gap and create equitable opportunities for all set their sights first on education, primarily early childhood education.
The average person doesn't really know that 90% of your brain is developed by age 3. So instead of paying attention to the third grade reading, let's pay attention to what happens under age 3.
Right. You gotta steer, turn. What is so important that happens in those first 3 years?
Well, the basic nurturing and connection, but the brain needs to be stimulated. So if nobody's talking to you, giving you eye contact, and overall making that connection with you, then your growth is stunted.
Once you're able to socialize and you're comfortable in a group of people, you're comfortable speaking out, you're comfortable sharing your personality, yourself, you raise your hand in class. There's more options to answer questions. There's more options to take risks because you're comfortable with that social part of life.
So right now, when you're at this stage of development, it's about the process of learning and expression more than it is about creating
A process of production.
Right. Through that, you get validation, you get confidence, and through that confidence, it reiterates more comfort in being in a learning environment, which leads to obviously many other good things like retention rates and student interest and teacher-student relationships.
As a young black man, as I continue to get older and try to use my life and my skills in service, trying to grapple with the issues that we deal with can seem very complex. And poverty is one of those things when you try to wrap your mind around it or you try to contribute yourself towards service. It's just like, okay, where do I start? What's the best way to contribute my energy?
We really try to make sure that we are reaching out to our most vulnerable families, most vulnerable populations. So, you know, they are at poverty or below to qualify for Head Start. Many of them have high social service needs or domestic violence in their past and many areas of trauma that they have to overcome. And so our goal is to really provide that comprehensive service for our children and families to help them learn how to overcome that and learn how to incorporate that into who they are versus it being a constant barrier.
Let's just talk about minority communities, low-income communities. If we would focus on just empowering them with their own voice and their own agency, they could solve their own problems. Yeah. They could be the ones, regardless of whether we ever put any more financial resources in those neighborhoods, where they would bring voice to. And for a family that's living in poverty that gets access to a quality early childhood experience for them, it gives them an opportunity to continue to climb the economic ladder themselves. Because when you don't have to worry about your child when you drop them off, you can go to work, you can go to school, you can pursue your dreams. But if you're worried about where you're leaving your children, and you're not going to want to do those things. In low-income communities, we don't give the highest quality, we often give the lowest quality. The worst food, the worst customer service, the least amount of services in general. And so when our center was designed, it was designed with the idea of being for the people that live in this neighborhood.
Kids like me and families like mine rely on programs like early childhood education to fight the traps of poverty in the pursuit of the American dream. But unfortunately, not all kids have access to early childhood education, and not all early childhood education programs are equitable. When we're putting together the puzzle for unequal opportunity in the United States, it's evident that early childhood education is a major piece. Data shows that preschool programs like Head Start give kids the opportunity to enter into kindergarten ready to learn, consequently affecting their lifetime earnings. Personally, I recognize how crucial it was for me. We can start by increasing access to preschool programs for all kids, making sure that they are of good quality, with qualified teachers, in safe neighborhoods, especially for those born into poverty. But I'm sure you can imagine this isn't the whole story. Even kids who have equitable access to early childhood education still fail to break out of cycles of poverty. What other barriers stand in their way? We'll keep exploring next time on The Opportunity Gap.